everybody, welcome back to another episode of the TreeTopChat. This is episode 35, so we're hoping that everyone is fine and you had a good start of the year. We had a bit of an extra session on Sunday with Ghislaine from France. That was our first guest from France, from Toulouse. It was a very interesting conversation. We heard some fun stories and got some good insights to what's happening down in the southern part of France. So if you missed that episode, and others for that matter, check them out on our area on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Pods. You can see them all there. So a Teufelberger ambassador, namely Rick Reilly, who's an arborist from the U.S. This is our first guest from the U.S. He's known for his inspirational yet entertaining and informative content. So he has a very interesting story, which we believe will be of value to many. So as usual, if you have any questions at all for Brick or us, leave them in the question forum, and we will take it in the end. Hey, Brick.
Hey, what's up? How are you?
I'm good. You're upside down.
Oh, all right. Hold on. Let me hold on 1 second.
That's much better.
Yeah, I'm not tech savvy. I'm working on it.
Cool. How are you?
How's the sound?
It's good. It's good.
It's good? Okay. All right.
Yeah. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Perfect. It's fine. It's just we have a lot of snow here. It's a little cold, but we probably have like I don't know, 5 inches of snow or something.
It's pretty decent. Yeah, we have a cold snap in now. Right now, with the wind chill outside, it's 5 degrees, and then we have snow coming on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Oh.
Yeah.
So where are you based?
I'm in New Jersey.
In Jersey?
Yeah, United States. Yeah.
I know. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the other side of the river, huh?
We'll say it again.
You're on the other side of the river. Big Apple.
I always hear the other side of the pond.
Pond.
The pond, yeah. I haven't heard the river yet, but I heard the pond.
Well, I'm talking about the river.
Yeah.
The Bruce Springsteen River. That separates Jersey from New York.
Well, listen, if you're gonna make musical reference, I literally cannot help you with that. I have no like I love music, but I don't have a good a base where I can relate everything to. So whatever song I know Bruce Springsteen, but I don't know the songs.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm familiar with New Jersey because my cousins grew up there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where about?
In Boonton.
Oh, yeah. So that's probably I could get there maybe like 20 minutes. It's 287, but 20 minutes from here.
Okay. Well, I haven't been there in about, I don't know, 30 years maybe.
Things have changed since then.
Yeah, but they're spread all over the U.S. right now. So, and one is actually in Switzerland. So
that's cool. That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. I noticed. I listened to a couple other podcasts, and I've noticed that you are well traveled. So it's pretty cool that you've been to a lot of places over the years.
Yeah, and I've been to a lot of places in the U.S. as well. Some people say that I've probably been to more states than the most common Americans.
True. Yeah, true.
It's probably 15 or something. I don't know, 20 maybe.
That's awesome. Okay,
cool. So let's start with a bit of a standard question here. How did you end up in the arbor industry?
So in my mind, there's two, like a pair of glasses, and you look through one lens, and that lens looks like a basic kid who went to college, had a hard time in school, and then dropped out, and was just trying to figure out what to do with his life, and liked the idea of climbing trees and got into the tree industry. But there's a deeper level, which is the other lens, is that same kid who had a tough time in college. It's me, obviously, but I was born deaf. And when I mean deaf, I know I can speak. So I think a lot of people misunderstand that because I can speak, that it might not be that bad. But I was born profoundly deaf, which basically means I cannot hear anything if I don't have my cochlear implant on. or before it was hearing aids. So, going through that journey in life in general, I've had great family, great teachers, great role models to guide me in the direction that I needed to go. They set up the perfect guardrails, like go do this direction, go this way, and you'll be successful. You'll be able to achieve whatever you would like to do. And I did that. I was what, kind of, for me, it sounds really strange to say it, but I was a good follower. I was never a leader. I was introverted. I was, I was always the kid that was behind my mom. My mom would always speak for me. And as long as, I did certain things, it was like, you'll be fine. So I did those things the best I could. I followed what they said. And it got me to college. But when I got to college, the whole point of college is that you're supposed to be a young adult and be able to advocate for yourself. Yeah. But with my hearing, I was also a little bit like somewhat ashamed. You know what I mean? Like ashamed. Like I didn't really want to ask for help because I wanted to like just be myself, and those guardrails weren't there anymore. So while it was awesome to be free, really quickly, inside of a year, really quickly, my academic abilities went down really fast. So it got to a point where I was essentially in a very dark place. I can't do anything. I don't feel like I can't push through. I just ended up in a really dark place, and I had to make the decision that it was better to go home than try to keep pushing through, and then more, in my mind, suffer more. So I went home, and when I went home, it was like the typical thing. What do you do? I don't have a degree. I don't have a job. I don't have anything. Luckily, I have a good family that's always like thinking of creative ways to help each other out. And my aunt actually called the deaf and hard of hearing school that I went to when I was a kid. When I was, I went there I think I got there when I was 4 years old. But as a 4 and 5 year old, it's a school where you learn how to speak. It's listening and spoken language. So she called the executive director of that place, and they set up an interview with me. But the idea was the interview. I believe the interview was more of like knock some sense into him, make him go back to school because it's the best thing for him. But long story short is I ended up working there as a teacher assistant with deaf and hard of hearing kids that were between the ages of 3 and 6 years old. So it was the first time in my life that I got to be around other people like me. But now here I am, 19, 20 years old, hanging out with 3 to 6 year olds. The only time that I actually felt like I was connected to somebody else who had hearing loss.
Right? Yeah, but for me, it sounds like, you said you were a follower, but, in that instance, you became a leader.
Not yet. Not quite yet. I became, I love to tell the story because I finally felt like I was home. I was home. Now, this extra part of that lens is when I was a kid, my favorite thing is that everybody has a story about when they climbed trees when they were little, right? Even people that people are not in the industry, you could literally go outside and talk to anybody on the street and be like, hey, did you climb a tree when you were a kid? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I had this tree in my, my uncle's yard, and there's some sort of story where we can all relate to, right? Yeah. So the thing is, for me though, it was actually an escape from the heavy, sad feeling that I would have not being able to hear. So yeah, we all went out, we all had fun, but I was actually escaping. I was getting something out of that experience. So when we started getting older into grade school and high school, everybody stopped doing that. I didn't. I'm talking about climbing without, ropes or harness. I didn't know anything about it yet. But I started getting a little bit more bold and adventurous with kind of like almost like an adrenaline junkie, like seeking for that like thrill. Yeah. Because again, like it gave me a sense that I didn't feel like I was a deaf person struggling to make it in the hearing society. I felt like I was accomplishing something. And I was, I got little
Yeah.
doses of like achievements, and then I would be able to go back to school, to situations where I had to struggle again. So every time I could escape to that, I did it. Now we get to, what I just said before about I went to college. I was still doing it in college too, but now I can't stay there because academically I just let everything fall off. Now I'm working with these deaf and hard of hearing kids, 3 to 6 years old. And like you said, looks like I might have been a leader. I wasn't a leader yet, but then one of my camping trips that I went on, I was doing the same thing in the woods, climbing trees, like when a tree uproots and it lands into another tree,
Yeah.
and it could be up at like depending on the degree, but it could be like a 45-degree angle into another tree. I would go up those and then be about 50, 60 feet in the air. I would jump from that tree to the next tree. That would be depend, but 5 or 10 feet away. Again, no harness, no ropes.
Wow.
I don't know that we have chestnut oak trees here. I think they're also known as rock oak. We're like really deep. I guess they're called like they're like deep cracks in the bark. I would climb like a monkey. I would stick my fingers in there and then use my feet sideways and climb it like a pole, get to the top branch of 20, 30 feet, and then keep climbing up there, free climbing. Normal. I don't like I said, I was getting something out of it, but I never looked at it as I was endangering myself.
Which age was this? How old were you when you were doing this?
Well, I've been, like I said, I've been doing it. It got bolder and bolder, but I never stopped. So at this time, when I was on the camping trip with this person, I just started working at summer speech school with the deaf kids. So I want to say this was 2000, 2001. So I was 19, 20 years, maybe, let's say 20 years old.
Yeah.
So this person, I get down, go back over, or my buddies are hanging out. And then this other person who I've never met before saw me do what I just did. And, older person, respectful. And I put my hearing aid back on. And he came up to me, and I almost verbatim. I remember he was like, "That was really cool, but not safe." I'm like, "No, I understand, but that's what I do." Like, he said, "Well, you know that you can get a job where you can use ropes and a harness, and you'll get paid for it." Honest to God, I thought he was crazy. I never, no point in my life did I might have seen the, tree service trucks, bucket trucks, but I never connected it that it was tree work. I'd never seen a person climb a tree with ropes. It was always like, it's just something I did so I can get a good feeling so I can go back to having a tough time in life. So I went home from that camping trip. I went on the computer. I did some research on horticulture and arboriculture came up. From that day on, I was obsessed. I was like, I got it. Like, I know what I'm going to do now. Like, I'm not sure what I have to do. Who do I have to talk to? If I could even do it. But I just know that I need to be a tree climber. This is going to be my job. To the point, I even have like kind of a cheesy story. I actually, to the point that every time I would go hiking or, climbing the trees, free climbing, I would always leave behind with a marker. I would put TC Indigo Star. And like, it's cheesy. It's a name I gave myself. It's something I just believed in. I was like, I believe that I'm going to be a tree climber. And Indigo Star is just a name I came up with creative, ideas and stuff. And I would leave that as a mark, marking everywhere, on rock faces, on tree barks, on camping trips, hiking. And it was just an obsession. Again, same thing with family and friends. I spoke about this. So I would tell people, this is what I'm going to do. I have no idea how I'm going to get there. I don't know who does it or anything like that. And then actually a friend of mine's uncle was retiring from a municipality of the shade tree department there. So he said, hey, there's an opening, go put an application in. So I went to the Union County, which is part of New Jersey, but Union County DPW, Department of Public Works, Shade Tree Division. And I put an application in. And everything I just told you right now, the story, I told that story to the executive director of that place. And I don't know if I look back on it. I don't know if like he was moved by the stories. He believed me, or maybe he thought I was crazy and I belong in the trees. I'm not really sure how it worked out, but literally I got hired 2 weeks later and started working there. So that's like the official way I got into the industry. I always, for me, it was always an escape in a good way. I never let it go. And then it came to a point where you become a young adult and you have to have a job. You got to do
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
And it just all seemed to fit together.
Cool.
But
That's very interesting.
thank you. I haven't met anybody else with the same kind of story or background. So
No, absolutely not. You know,
I'm
I never heard anything close to that. So you know, that was very interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
you're welcome.
That's very nice. But you also use the term industrial athlete, and you know, you seem to be a quite heavy fitness guy. So you're after, you know, quite often working out using unconventional equipment and such things. So tell us, you know, what that really means, and you know what an industrial athlete means.
So let me give. I'll be able to jump off the previous story that I just told. One of the things that my whole life was my body was able to get me to a place where I felt a sense of relief, right? Climbing trees.
Yeah.
So when I left college and I was at home and I was in that like dark mental space and trying to figure things out, the it's crazy because the first thing I thought of was like, and it sounds kind of gory, but I take my skin off, I rip off the muscles and tendons, I break my bones. What do I got? Like, it's me. I'm here. Okay, I'm home. Now I have to get a job. I have to do this. I get that. But how do I get there? And everything was always like your body. Your body, you take care of your body. It's not about how long you can live, but it's like how fully you can live in the time that you're here. So from that moment on, I mean, I literally I got my mom's car. I went right to, it's called Barnes and Nobles. It's a bookstore. And I was I probably all day, maybe 6 hours in the, it was actually, I think it was labeled as sports and fitness section. And I was just going through all the different sports and people, techniques, styles, and everything, just trying to figure out, like, I know what I want to do, but how do I start? Who do I follow? And Bruce Lee. Everybody knows who Bruce Lee is.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so Bruce Lee, there was kind of like a volume. It had like, I think it was 5 books. I took all 5 of them. I took them home, and then that was essentially the base, the beginning of what I didn't know it at the time, but it was the beginning of being an industrial athlete. So from that point on, I went through a lot of trial and errors as far as learning about what fitness is. And today, I can tell you that fitness is not just about how you can build your body and look good, even though that's a great benefit. What I found is, and I've studied. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. These are things that people have done studies and came out with, and it just comes down to that it's the muscles, strength, it's endurance, it's mobility, flexibility, balance, and all of these incorporate so well into what tree climbers do, because we're climbing an organism that is multi-dimensional space that does not give you a level ground to stand on. So most people, I would assume most people look at us like, oh, that's, it's amazing. I don't know how you do it. And it's like, well, tree climbing, there's really nothing better than tree climbing to know how to tree climb. But you want to get better. You want to last longer. You want to have enough energy after you're done with work and still go home and spend time with your family, friends, children, and stuff like that. That's where the industrial athlete really came, to the forefront. And
yeah, that requires endurance. Yeah.
say it again.
Yeah, that certainly requires endurance. Endurance to be able to continue after having a heavy
Exactly.
work day.
Yeah, exactly. So I really took that to heart. You know, like I started with it, and then it became this thing where like, okay, like it's lining up to what to with what I do now. And then the like you said, the unconventional aspects of like you'll see, I love it because it's almost the same idea as like it's unconventional to climb a tree, right? I mean, if you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about it, it's like you're climbing something that just has a wicked shape to it. Every tree is different. Nothing's ever the same. It's unconventional to climb rock, rock faces. It's people climbing El Capitan. Like it's
Yeah.
unconventional. So it made sense to me to start experimenting with the fundamentals of working out, you know, the basic, working out bodybuilding style, to start incorporating it to an unconventional way with objects or things in nature, because I look at tree climbing the same way, where it's unconventional, but I'm able to do it. So I want any training that I do, I want to try to make it weird and uncomfortable and different so that it feels the same way when I go into the tree.
Okay, that's the reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
So since you've been reading a lot of Bruce Lee, and were you after kind of his mindset in that aspect, or do you practice any martial arts or stuff like that as well?
So I do so my brother, he's 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 really good as a martial artist. He's got his own school. It's a Rute. He's phenomenal. And I have a bad habit since like I look at this, I look at tree climbing, and as an art. That is my martial art,
Okay, yeah, got it.
right? So the my brother does that, and I'll dabble. I'll every now and then I'll be in there and I'll be out. I'll be in, and I respect it. I honor it. I appreciate it. It's a great way to connect the mind and body. So like in a way, I'm not a great student of the martial arts. I'm a lover of it, but I also look at tree climbing as a martial art. So when I talk to him and some of his teachers in his school, it's really cool to see the parallels between tree climbing and practicing your kata and understanding the space that you're in relation to the enemy. So
Yeah.
it's really, I think it's way closer than most people think it is.
Yeah, I think you talked about, in the beginning as well, that you were doing a lot of hiking, when you were younger. You also seem to be very good with, bow and arrow. Do you hunt with it, or did that kind of, interest develop as you were out hiking and stuff?
So the bow and arrow, literally just on my brother-in-law just put one together with my dimension, but put one together of all parts that he had. And I'm trying to remember, on Christmas Day, he gave it to me. I had to wait for my target to come in. I think it was the following Wednesday. So I literally just started essentially the beginning of the new year. So never shot before. He's like a good coach. He told me, what YouTube video to watch, what I'm looking for as far as how to shoot it. And very similar to everything I just said about martial arts and tree climbing, there's a lot, if you're really good and pay attention to your mind more than just your body alone, it's a good, it's another art, the art of archery. It's another good place for somebody who enjoys that mental challenge. So I literally just started the beginning of the year. I'm pretty much almost every day making sure I can at least shoot one round. Um, but the passion for archery, I want to say probably around the time, maybe a little bit before I got into tree climbing. So I'm in my 19th year now. So in that whole time, I've always wanted to do archery, but it's always been way on the back burner. And then
Yeah.
and then in one of my posts that I just did on Instagram, you'll see me throwing the spear. And the whole point of the spear thing is it comes from the same thing of like the martial art, the warrior. Like if God forbid the world gets a little too crazy and we need to find our own food, what are we going to do? You know, and that's the kind of mindset that I'm always operating on. And once I posted that spear throwing one, that's when first of all, I want to say thank you to a lot of people that reached out and offered to help, or even their bows in general, which is awesome. And one of them being my brother-in-law. And once he put it together, it's just like perfect timing, where it's the same enjoyment as tree climbing is.
Yeah, I thought that kind of interest developed because, I remember, you said if you ask people on the street and, everybody says that, they were climbing trees as a kid.
Yeah.
And I certainly did as well. But, when we were running around in the woods, you find a piece of branch and a string and you make yourself a bow, right? And you were cutting yourself a little arrow and you were, running around and playing like, in the woods with those. So I thought, maybe that interest kind of developed as you were running around muching them.
I will say this. I'm glad you said that, and I will say this. I am still that kid.
Okay.
So essentially, that is what happened. I'm just older in the body, but I'm still that kid. That's why I'm throwing the spear.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, your Instagram bio, says that, you're a writer to author. What have you written about thus far?
Oh, so, I relate this to it's a personality that I have. My experiences and then my thought process, it's always been something, even as a kid, that I've always been trying to put on paper. So I've been writing I can't even tell you when I started. I've been writing for a long time, but it's always like write a little and then I stop. Write a little bit more, I stop. I buy a new notebook, I write a little bit more, I stop. My wife usually thinks it's funny because if you go into the basement, there's boxes everywhere with Post-its, notebooks, just random papers, napkins, name it. And I couldn't even tell you what's in the boxes, what I wrote. So it's always been trying to like craft a story and create a different, I don't want to say big, but like I wanted to be able to write something where people could read it and then just have a newfound appreciation of their own life. Right? So it's funny because since I read a lot too, one of the things in one of the books that I read was something like hold yourself accountable. If you're gonna do something, hold yourself accountable. So I put that up there, writer to author on Instagram, with no actual plan or anything. And I was like, you know what? Like I see it now. I have to act on this at some point. So that I might have did that maybe like a year and a half ago, and it stayed up there. And I'm always. I mean, I can show you right here. It's like this is my notebook here. I don't know if you see it. Notebooks. I got papers. I always have it. About a year ago, a little bit less. My wife's coworker is Mark Cagliari. He's we're kind of on the same. So I know I'm getting excited. So he's actually a mixed martial artist, a cage fighter. Like we were talking about the martial arts. So he's actually a mixed martial artist, and he's a teacher with my wife at the high school. So him and I are somewhat on the same frequency, wavelength, and we got together and were like, yo, let's talk. Let's see if we can get what we have up here and be able to get it down on paper and maybe come up with a book, and then just see what happens. So we actually started, which I can tell you right now, that we actually started 11 weeks ago. So I have, and I've been writing. So in 10 more weeks, I will have a rough draft of the book, which will be essentially a manual that it'll be an easy read that people can read and hopefully inspire them to not completely change their life, but just do something a little bit different to add some more spark into what they're doing. And
Okay.
so in a way, writer to author is holding myself accountable. I put it out there on Instagram. Now you're calling me out on it, which makes me feel good that I'm somewhat prepared. I'm somewhat
That's good.
making the steps towards it.
So in this process of writing, are you two getting together once in a while, and or you write, on your own?
No, we are. He is no, actually maybe it's past Booten. Yeah, it's a little bit past Booten. No, what we do is it depends. Maybe 2 times a month we do a Zoom call, just like we are now.
Yeah.
Zoom, like a face-to-face
Yeah.
conversation, and we're both writing. We know the parameters, like we know where we're headed towards with what we're writing about. So, I have on my end, I'm more of the writer. On his end, he's learning to be the writer.
Yeah.
And then the whole point is just write. I mean, because the goal for the book is 30,000 words. My mindset is to write 60,000 words because we're going to have to trim everything off of it
Yeah. Of course.
to clean it up, to edit it, to make it nice. So when people read it, it's just not like a ramble, just
No,
going on and on. So
I understand.
we're very dedicated, accountable to each other. And, like I said, we have the deadlines and another 10 more weeks. So that's where we are right now. That'll be my first book. I have 3 other books in here that I need to get out, but one
Cool.
at a time.
Cool. Let me know when when you will release it, and I suppose you can buy it from on Amazon or whatever. It's going to be an ebook, right?
I want the real book.
I
Ebook's
want a
cool.
real book.
Yeah, ebook is cool, but I'm a firm and passionate believer in having the books in your hand and reading those pages. So I will tell you, just because this is a cool experience, I will make sure I will sign one and send it to you.
Cool. Looking forward to that. Because
Yeah.
I'm more of a Kindle guy. I was reading books. I consume a lot of books, but now I have them on my Kindle,
Yeah.
so I think that's very handy.
No, I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying it's not cool.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
saying,
I understand.
like,
But
yeah, no, I think it's great. Cause think about it. You get to carry unlimited books with you. Where I'm stuck in my library, I only can read what I have on the shelves.
yeah, exactly.
So it's cool.
So, you're actually our first U.S. guest. We had
Cool.
probably saw that we spoke to DeVries up in Canada, but you're the first U.S. guest. So tell us a little bit about the orbit industry in the U.S. Is it big? Is it a lot of competition? Is it very regulated? How does it work? I've seen some pictures from from Instagram, but tell us about the industry, please.
Yeah. Well, I'm honored to be the first U.S. guest. That's pretty cool. So it's definitely a big arboriculture industry in the U.S. Without a doubt. This is my personal view of looking at it. It's really big, and there's a lot of people involved. The standards, the standards, the level of safety, the professionalism, I would like to have it way higher than where it feels bad saying it, but most of the industry isn't at a standard I would like to see it at.
Yeah.
So let's just say that's 80%. But there's 20% that are at that standard, that are really trying to push it and be like, listen, we're all in the industry together. Let's all be at this standard so we can obviously be safe. You know what I mean? Because we don't want people to get hurt and stuff. We can also create a fair game, because obviously we're all competitors. We all need to go make money, and that's fine. But let's make it fair where we can all charge pretty close in price so that nobody's undercutting. So if you look at, and this is not, again, this is not about anybody in particular, but if you look at social media, you'll see a lot of huge range of different kinds of climbers, different levels of experience. There's some people that are super safe. There's some people that are not safe. And I would assume, assuming is not a good thing to do, but I would assume that it's very appealing to a lot of people that it looks like easy money. You get a chainsaw, get a ladder, and hey, I can charge X amount of dollars and I can make this money and put it in my pocket and then go away. So being that it's so appealing to do that, to like just easy money, the standards are real low. And I'm not saying that we're trying to take anybody out of the industry, but I'd like to get everybody up, in those standards.
Yeah, understand. So, but there seems to be some regulation at least, right? You have a license, but when people are buying those services, they're not interested to see that the people that are going to perform the work have the appropriate equipment and the licenses that are required.
Yeah, so that's what's really cool about the state that I'm in. Just talking about the whole country itself, there's no like law, like general law that says you need to be licensed. This is how you have to do it.
Okay.
So in a way, if you look at it, at least how I look at it, is that that part is still like a baby. It's learning how to do that. New Jersey, as far as I'm concerned, New Jersey is the only state that was able to get it where it's a law that you have to have a license in order to operate in the tree industry, which is awesome. I became a licensed tree expert. There's a big tree company called Aspen Tree Service, and Steve Chisholm works there, and he also offers prep classes. So I went to a prep class that was from, I think it was March to July. And we met once a week, and the first half was all indoor, learning about the trees, the type of trees, Latin names, disease, pests, fungus, everything. And then the second half is out in the field in all these different locations throughout the state. And then you take your test in July. A very difficult and hard test. It's been around since 1940. So it's been around a long time. The best way I can describe it for a lot of people that might not be familiar with it is, what ISA, right?
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely.
Yeah, so ISA, they have their certified arborists, and then they have a board master certified arborist. Well, think of the LTE like the board master certified arborist, right? So here's the thing, though. For me, is great. You have the law, but now you got to get everybody to follow the law and want to put that time in. So the regulation is kind of like a baby right now, and it's getting, I think at some point, maybe 10 years, 15 years, it'll get to the point where I think people are going to start getting on board with trying to make this a regulation that works for everybody.
Yeah, I actually checked out their homepage, the New Jersey Licensed Tree Expert homepage, and that certification looked very similar to the European tree worker. You have you're doing a lot of prep work, and you have to work for some time before you're going to be eligible for doing the test, right? And then you have a climb in the morning, and then you do the writing test in the afternoon, right?
We didn't do a climb. We did an indoor written test in the morning, and then an outdoor field portion where we go to all the trees. We have to know the Latin name. We have to know what's wrong with it, what's obvious, and then remedies for those issues.
So you don't have to show your climbing abilities, or?
No. So the climbing abilities, we do. As far as we have training that you can get training to do it, but as far as being part of the license, it's not a part of the license.
Okay.
The license is more of the brain, like more of like you're like, think about it. If you have somebody who understands the biology of trees and the issues, that person is more likely going to put the right climber in that tree to achieve the objectives. Where if somebody does not understand about the biology of trees, they're just going to go up there and just make cuts. So I don't, maybe in the future they'll make it to where you need to be a climber, as in the test. But I think the focal point is just more of making sure the right people are making decisions for the trees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the European tree working license and also the ISA is a lot of biology as well, of course. Like you said, fungus and so forth.
Cool.
So you're also a Teufelberger ambassador. How did that come about?
So so over the years, the more I invested in time training for tree climbing competitions, that's when you get to start to meet people and network. So I started to work with some brands. Sometimes we worked together, sometimes it didn't work out. One of the brands, we have it's not like an actual contract, but True Work was one of the first ones. Mainly because of that's kind of where I got the industrial athlete term from, was Brian, who's the owner of True Work, at one of the competitions. He saw the videos that I was making, and it was like, oh, that's exactly what we're talking about. Somebody who wants to do the work, but does more to take care of themselves to do it. So the more I kept meeting people at it's called so I know because I went to, in 2019, I went to German Tree Care Days in Augsburg.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have TCIA Expo. I don't know, you might be familiar with it, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was there myself.
Okay, there you go, perfect. So we were at the expo, and I was talking to somebody who I knew on social media, was Brandon Steven. And Brandon Steven, we were just talking about stuff, and then at the same time, Teufelberger was doing what's it called, like a search for ambassadors in the U.S. And Brandon Stevens like, listen, you gotta fill out the online questionnaire and just send it in. Like, you'll be perfect for that. So I'm like, yeah, I appreciate the compliment. I was like, yeah, I'll just do it. So I just did it real quick before we went into the expo. I just did it real quick, like, hey, this is who I'm about. These are the people I'm working with. This is where I see myself in the future. And then sure enough, I was selected. So it was a cool honor. What's really cool about it is it came with a seriousness. It came with the seriousness as far as like we're actually working together to try to get to a better place. But it came with like the 100% of just keep being you. So it wasn't like change who you are to fit our company, and vice versa. So I've been unfortunately, while the excitement was great, COVID came. And the virus has messed up a lot of plans that we had in ready to go. So hopefully, later on this year, things will get better. And then we can actually start doing more meet-togethers, more, growing and learning together.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think everybody's getting very tired of the COVID right now, the whole world is upside down, I guess.
Yeah, and you know what? I was thinking about this before I came on, and so in the weird way where I was talking about before, like not being able to hear, and all the challenges that I've had to go through growing up. One of the things was, it's probably not the best analogy, but I was thinking about a dog. Like when you take a dog outside, the dog just wants so bad to sniff everything. Yeah. Right? To really like just take everything and sniff it and all that stuff. And I couldn't do that as a kid. Like, remember I said I was a good follower. So it was like, hey, you got to keep going. Like, you got to get this done, because the only way you can be successful is that you got to do this. So I could never stop to smell the roses, kind of a thing. Right?
Okay,
So what's interesting is that when COVID hit, in some weird ways it feels the same thing, where like a lot of people, like, life has been taken away from them. Like, hey, you can't do this. You have to stay in your house. You can't do this. You can't do that. Right? So I'm hoping I'm making a good analogy, because I'm looking at it as what happened when I couldn't fit in with hearing society. I climbed trees. I did other things. I spent time to learn about myself, to be comfortable in my skin, to try to figure things out. And then when this time hit around, when COVID came around, right away, my wife and I, we talked, and I said, you know what? As far as we know, the world is going crazy, and we have to be home. So I literally didn't work out for definitely 7 months, 7.5 months. I didn't work out at all. I did my job in climbing trees, but when I came home, I rebuilt the whole backyard to make this really cool compound for kids. I mean, name it. That's where you see me shooting the archery. I have big swings. I got big, platforms for the kids, fire pit area, hammock swings, zip line, name it, And it was just interesting that this challenge that we have can be something that we can use to get ready for, when we're free again, or it can be something that you can complain about. And you got to pick one or the other. So I know I'm getting like inspirational, but it's just, I can't help it. That's how I look at the whole situation.
Yeah, I know, but I think this is getting to people's heads now as well. If you're on a complete lockdown, or you have a curfew from 6 o'clock, and people are used to being out, it's terrible, and it's global, right? So
definitely, I agree 100%.
Well, you seem to have a lot of fun on the job. So, what is your best tip for enjoying your everyday job for the people who are watching?
So first and foremost, it's enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. I think people. Well, first of all, like let's imagine. You get into it. You're enthusiastic. You're like, yes, I'm gonna push. I'm gonna get to this point. I'm gonna become the best. I'm gonna do a great job. I'm gonna make it whatever it is. You're like a kid again. You're very enthusiastic. I think the challenge becomes after a while is that you lose the enthusiasm, and it's work. Like you don't get to wake up in the morning and just expect to be enthusiastic after time passes. You have to work on that. There's many ways. Anybody can do whatever they want to do that, but the way that I do it is I always try to remember to be grateful, gratitude. So like I saw a post a while back from a friend of mine who owns a tree service, and he was saying that he's just tired of it. He's just like I lost it. I lost the fun. I lost the excitement and everything else. And that's what I mean by my tip will be you have to work on the enthusiasm. Now, real quick, I just want to make it a point that some people might say, well, how do you do that? What is, and it just comes down to that it doesn't mean that you have to be enthusiastic with trees. I'm not saying if you can't find it in there, that's fine. Keep doing it. Make sure you're safe. But I know somebody somewhere has something that they want to do. They want to be passionate about. It could be, a hobby. It could be whatever it is. I would encourage that person to start using that to get the enthusiasm back, and then translate that enthusiasm back into the tree work.
That's some good advice there. Thank you for that. So, speaking of fun, give us your funniest job story. I expect you to have a few, but give us a funny story.
Funny. It's kind of like this is like a twofer. Like this is like two stories in one. This is 2000, maybe like 2004 or something like that, when I was working at the municipality, and a good friend of mine, Jamie Firschbaum, him and I were working together. We're the same age, and for some reason we're on, I believe it was lunch break, and I don't even know how it got to it, but we talked about having a tug of war with the rope. Who's stronger? Just two guys who's trying to, flex their muscles. And obviously he's a bigger dude, and I don't mean like heavy set. I mean like he's just naturally taller, bigger. And I always have, at least I think I always have the fighting spirit that I really don't care about size. So I'm like, yeah, let's do the tug of war. Well, needless to say, that let's just say, not only did it just immediately pull the rope, but then drag me across the lawn because I still held onto the rope, thinking I still had a fighting chance. Not even close. The second part of the story is that that day he also said that, kind of like flexing muscles, saying like, it's all about the lats. It's all about the lats. It's all about the rows. When you're pulling those rows, you got to pull the rows. And, rows is with the dumbbell, just making your lat muscles real big. So it stuck in my head. I was like, you know what? I'll never, ever lose in a tug of war ever again. I can't, So I didn't train to be good at tug of war, but I always made sure that I had a strong back. In 2008, I had an awesome opportunity to be on a TV show called American Gladiators.
Okay.
Are you familiar with it?
Not exactly that one, but we have similar shows here in Europe.
Yeah, well, back in the 90s, it was very popular. It was called American Gladiator. And there were contenders in there, people like my size, that had to go through obstacle courses with these massive dudes or even females too, and wanting to rip your head off. So I was able. They brought it back for a couple of years, so I was able to get on that show. One of the events that I had to do was a tug of war over water with tilting tables. I'll actually post it. Maybe if I can find it, I'll post it tomorrow. But I won. I won that event, and I almost lost. And then I literally had the immediate flashback of being on that front lawn, holding onto the rope, being dragged across the lawn.
Well, that's not just brute strength. There's a lot of technique in tug war.
Say it again.
There it's not just brute strength. It's a lot of technique in tug war, right?
100%. Yes, yeah. And then that goes back to the industrial athlete. Like, you can have the big muscles, but you show up and you don't know how to use them. It doesn't make any difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're getting down to our standard question. Your favorite piece of gear of all time, and why?
Well, again, I'm gonna be cheesy. My favorite piece of gear is my body. That's it. Like, I can't do anything if my body's not ready for it. But I will say that as far as having fun in a tree, not tree work, as far as just having fun in big, open, wide-spreading trees with a lot of space in between to swing. Obviously, I climb on a tree motion. I've been climbing on it for 9 years. Is the tree motion with the rope runner on essentially any rope that has like a little bit of stiffness to it, but with the rope runner, it's the best feeling in the world to jump from one limb, especially if you're up high, down to a limb lower, and just be able to time it right to where you can just slide and then just add that break right when you land onto the limb. So I'm gonna go. I know it's been said a couple of times. The rope runner is a very popular and favorite tool.
Yeah, we've been waiting for it for some time here. Everything that we sell have to be, CE and EN approved. So
I know. I know.
So, but we're getting closer now. It's probably going to be kind of second half of March.
Okay, cool, awesome, nice. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah, I think we're approaching the end here. I'm not sure if we have any questions from the audience or no. Nothing showing here. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everybody for watching. It was a great conversation. Really interesting to hear your insights, and proud of having our first guest on the program. Very interesting. I think a lot of people can learn from your endurance and your insights to what it takes to be reach your goals and be safe in your work and be a happy man. As I can see you are.
No, so thank you for having me on. I hope everybody did appreciate it and will appreciate it later on.
Yeah. Thank you very much to the Garden State.
That's it. Golden State, you got it.
Exactly. So, and have a nice weekend, everybody. We'll be back next Friday. Rick, take care.
Cool. You too.
Have a good day. Cheers. Bye.
All right. See you later.
Bye.